Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another one of my trick videos. So today I will introduce you guys a very easy to use trick. And this trick is very likely that your opponent has never seen before. So I don't really mean this trick that your opponent has never seen before, but the variations I'm going to talk about is it came up with AI, so it's very new and very updated. So let's take a look. When our opponent goes into the 3-3, white will block here, and then black rolls. So if white does this d5 or even play c6, those are just my Joseki lectures. So go ahead and watch my Joseki lectures on the 3-3 Joseki. It's fairly detailed explanation over there. So today I will be talking about when white honeys. When black honeys at b5, white cuts at b4. At this point, you might be like, "Oh well, that's a trick you're gonna talk me about. I've seen this before. I know how to deal with it." But not so fast, right? So let's look at what has came out with AI. What kind of new weapons you guys can build, to use in your casual game as well as even in your competition. So this is a very serious trick that cannot be penalized under certain circumstances. So you might be wondering, well, black can just play b6, right? So that's the correct move, right? So let's first look at a couple moves that's also interesting. So this is an okay variation for both sides, right? But as black, I think you might feel a little bit uncomfortable because look at how white sealed everything. So as black, you might not feel as comfortable, but I'll tell you in advance that this is actually an equal position. So now black can even go ahead and just directly cut at d5 if you're a fighter. Okay, if you're not a fighter, what you can do is just to play very solid. Secure your corner. You can go ahead and take another corner if you want, right? Those are all very good choices. You can play like this, but a lot of viewers, since you guys are pretty good, so you might have seen somewhere that b6 is a classical way of solving this problem. Well, so let's see why. White obviously needs to Atari at b3 now. He can't really do this kind of stuff because black is just way too solid. White will fight. That's a correct move. Black obviously needs to extend, and white plays b2. And the old textbook says black plays this one, the turn at d2, when white blocks, and now that's just black's time to perform the show, right? So very slowly. So black Ataris at d5, and then Ataris at e3. So it's exactly this order, right? All these are forced, and then Atari at c7. This is the best way for black to play to gain the max out of white's mistake. White wants to run, well, too bad. Black Ataris, and then black ladders the 3 stones, and that's pretty much game over. Even if white somehow manages to play out this one, this amount of thickness is worth way too much, right? So that's just pretty much game over for white at this point. So that would be a game over situation if white just blocks at e2, and which is why in the old textbook or professional commentary or whatever, people look at this and just like, it's not gonna work for white. But turns out that white now has a c6. So this is the variation I was talking about that your opponent might have never seen before, right? So we don't block at e2. We know it doesn't work because the ladder. we just push at c6, and that's the correct continuation. So now black needs to be careful as to how to play, right? If black honeys, that's okay. White will honey from the outside. So black needs to be careful now. So if black plays out this one, now white can block at e2, and now this is game over for black, because there's no way to do what you did from last time. So there's no way. Looks like there's some Ataris, but really you cannot get out, right? So if you extend this out already, these guys are captured. If you Atari here, simply not going to work out. So that would be game over for black, actually. So at this point, this is by the way, this is a very new variation that I discovered just with playing around with AI. So you can try this variation out in your game, actually. So white honeys at d7, and now this is a very tricky situation. What does black play? Right? Anywhere he respond, he'd be falling into a trap. As I said, we can block at e2. So the best thing he can do is to get out right now, right? By playing e3 honey. And now we can Atari the stone at b7. And here there's a lot of traps, right? Like, so if he just Ataris, this obviously is going to be countered by this one. So this is okay. I guess this Atari is okay. But black can consider to drag the stone out at c8. That would be more accurate. White will capture the two stones at b6. And now this is the most important point for black. Right, so this is an okay position for black, but your opponent needs to understand why this is okay, because it's not so easy to understand why black is okay. Look, black got a weak group over here, black got two stones trailing here, white's got himself a solid corner, and the outside is not sealed by any means. So how is this okay for black? And what does black play? This is super tricky. So if black just without thinking Ataris like this, that becomes a real problem. Because now black's group here needs to fix, right? If he plays a move, not to say we can immediately attack it. So probably he'll play a more efficient move. Whatever he plays, there's a pincer over here. Immediately, black is under huge problems, right? Even we can pincer better by playing h3, actually. That's more accurate. So, so black has no roots, right? Like, so he needs to run, maybe by playing something like this. But now white can just turn, right? So after you play a couple moves, after this, still, you either need to play this really inefficient e1 to make yourself alive, or you have to run towards this direction. So your opponent really needs to know what he is doing, because otherwise he won't understand what is going on, basically. So the correct move for black to play right now is to actually tanuki. You might be looking at this like, what? How can this happen? Well, the reason you would tanuki here is because this d5 is always a life savior for this group. And white has no time to really fix it, because if he fixes it, that's a very inefficient move. This d5 exchanging with this h3 by itself is a huge loss in terms of territory. But if white decides to pincer, since we did not exchange this Atari, this d5 has a lot more strength. We can just drag our stone out. Black already has one eye. If black ever plays g2, this group is alive. If white decides to attack, no problem. We can go ahead and run like this, right? So this would be how black would run. By running, black is pretty much making himself alive. There seems to be another eye over here. And these two stones are still flexible. They can turn down. They still have a lot of value. So the values combined is enough to compensate for what white got in the corner. So very, very tricky at this point for black to tanuki, right? Anywhere else you play, it's just not worth that much. So really having the flexible mindset in the game of Go, as I repeated a million times, is super important to not fall for the trick. So this is a very, very tricky trick, right? So not only black has to play every move right, but also at this point he needs to have the flexible mindset of tanukiing. So super, super tricky. So that's what happens when the ladder is not working for white. So we'll recap at the end what happens. So let's consider a situation where the ladder actually works, right? So when the ladder usually works when we have the cross stars, and when black comes in, white can now play this Q2. So when the ladder works for white, this Q2 is a very, very strong move. So it's not a trick anymore. It's probably a Joseki. It's actually very, very strong, and you can try it out. So the ladder that I'm talking about is as we have demonstrated before, is when black turns here, white can now block and says to black, this is game over for you. Why? Because your combination, your famous combination, is no longer gonna work. Because at this point, white can start a run, right? So as we can see, it's like white has a stone over here, has a stone over here, has a stone over here. So when white plays this one, it connects. So now at this point, there's no way to ladder white, and that's game over because black's 4 stones are dead. So huge difference, which means black can no longer consider this O2 extension. That used to be the correct move when the ladder works. So what to do when black does not have the ladder? Well, here I would just present one solution. All right. So some Go teachers or other, I don't know, like you might have some Go teachers or you have seen other videos online. They'll recommend you playing this Hane. I don't recommend it. The reason being that white can just play out like this, right? So this is actually a good variation for white moving on. So my suggestion for my viewers is to just Atari at R2. There's no problem. So after white connect himself, that's okay. That's fine. So black can play anywhere else pretty much. He can even go ahead and just get another corner. So seems like white has a wall that covers that seals black entirely. That's true, but at some point white needs to worry about his P4 weakness. So even if black never gets the chance to cut directly, black has this peep, right, at some point, and that's just a very annoying move for white. White pretty much has to connect, and then black can jump. And then the development is very limited over here. So always something to worry about for white. But as white, obviously, he is going to be fine because later on, white's extension is threatening to play the S2, right? So there's some weird senteis that white has that makes this group stronger. There's a throw-in over here, stuff like that. So those are benefits that white got. But keep in mind that even if white sealed black entirely, it's black sentei. Not only that, but also the outside is a 2v1 situation. It's black Sente. So black is actually quite fast in this Joseki. So this would be an equal game moving on. So as my suggestion for my viewers, just to simply capture the stone, and you should be okay, right? So shouldn't be too much of a problem. All right, so that's about it. So that's the content for today. Let's quickly recap. We talked about today the trick that is for white to cut at a b4. Black's best move when the ladder works is to extend at b6. That's the old knowledge, and that's still valid. White will Atari and then play the b2. When black turns, white obviously will not play the e2, right? If he plays the e2, well, that's called you got yourself tricked, because there's number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4, and finally number 5. These guys are dead. So just remember to play that in this order as black, and that's going to be a very, very favorable game for you moving on, right? That at 6 dan, 7 dan level, it's called game over. But if you're not there, it would definitely be a huge lead for you. All right, so white cannot play obviously the textbook mistake, but now because of AI, we have learned about the c6, right? That's probably going to be your secret weapon, because your opponent might be like, what? That's a thing, you know? Like, I've never seen that. The textbook told us it's a trick, and then that's how we used to counter it, and now there's a new move at c6, making this area super complicated. So now black's correct move is to Hane, right? There's still this, white still cannot play this because of the same reasons. White will prep himself at d7. When white Hanes at d7, just remember black can absolutely not respawn here, otherwise this e2 will kill black. So black will Hane at e3. White will Atari at b7. And now, very, very important for black to extend out. When white captures these two, black super important at this point, right? Like, you can play anywhere else, just not locally, right? Just don't move in here. You play Atari turn, all that's not good moves. The best move is to not play, right? And leaving all these agis for later, right? White has absolutely no way to attack because we have this as Atari, and our group is strong. So that would be an equal game moving on. If you like white, right? Because white still got like himself some territory, instead of giving the corner to black, white secured some territory in the corner. But black is quite flexible at this point. He can later on turn here. He can Atari here when his group is safe, yeah, he's just very hard to catch, right? So that would be the idea behind this, behind why this is an equal position moving on. So that's how you would play out as white and as black, the most accurate variation. And finally, when the ladder, let's assume the ladder is not working for black, black will turn here at b3. When white plays out this one and connect himself, we can go ahead and start playing somewhere else, right? We can go into 3-3, we can defend ourselves like that, it's no problem. So black is quite fast, although his corner got sealed. White later on has to worry about the peep. If the ladder works, he has to worry about the cut directly. This is an equal game moving on as well. Alright, so give a like to the video and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There will be more Joseki tricks, more tricks and more Josekis coming out. and subscription will make sure you get updated whenever a new video comes out. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you guys next time.